Sarah had calmed down since she had left the house. It felt weird for her to lose her temper like that. It certainly didn't happen very often. She kept pondering on what happened at the house until she noticed Jed, who seemed to be at the truck with two other men. One man appeared to be in his mid-40s, while another one was in his mid-30s. Another his mid-40s had a stocky, wore a blue plaided shirt with gray long-sleeve shirt underneath, blue jeans, and brown boots. He also wore a beanie. It appeared that he was bald and had a thick beard. Another man was a leaner and wore a leather jacket with a green hooded sweatshirt underneath, blue jeans, and black shoes. She walked over as Jed said, "It looks like we're all set." One of the men smirked and made a gesture to Sarah. "Hey Jed, I think your girlfriend wants to talk to you," the man said. It was a younger man. Jed turned to Sarah and said, "Hey, good to see you." He then turned to the man who made the remark. "Hey Tim, how about you make yourself useful and get that pile of junk started?" The man named Tim rolled his eyes and went to work on the vehicle. "What's going on?" Sarah asked as Jed looked back to her. "You look like you were going somewhere." "Yeah, we're supposed to meet up with Tucker, Kurt, and Scott," Jed said. He could tell that she was confused. "You haven't met them yet. They usually go out scavenging. We just got a word from them that they've been having a hard time with some people." "A hard time?" Sarah asked. "Yeah, some folks can cause problems with us while we're out scavenging for some food and supplies," Jed said. "It might be some folks from Howe's." Sarah shook her head and said, "Everyone who was with Carver is dead." I see. Well, in that case, it's probably some random scavengers," Jed said. "Tim, Brandon, and I are going to meet up with them to act as backup." "Sounds dangerous," Sarah said. "Yeah, it's just part of the job," Jed said. "Maybe I could come with you?" Sarah said. Jed appeared to be shocked when she said this. "I could defend myself, and I would like to get out for a while." Jed rubbed the back of his head and said, "Sorry, we're getting ready to head out, and I would like to get permission from my dad so you can come. I doubt Kurt, Tucker, and Scott can wait that long." Sarah looked down and nodded. "I understand. Just be safe out there," Sarah said. "That's the plan. I'll probably see you sometime tomorrow," Jed said. "Hey Jed, you're still talking to your girlfriend? We need to get going," the other man said. That must have been Brandon. "Yeah, I'm coming, asshole," Jed said as he turned to Sarah and said, "I gotta go. Bye," Jed said, offered the girl a hug. To his surprise, he smiled and hugged him. "Bye," Sarah said. She hated to admit it, but he was charming at the time. He seemed to have care for the people within the community. It was like how Zeke cared about everyone in his group, and how he would risk his life to help them. The two separated from the hug, and Jed went over to the truck. He got inside and waved their goodbye to her. Sarah waved goodbye back and watched as the truck went forward towards the fence. The two other group members pulled the gate back and allowed him to leave. Sarah had a pair of footsteps approaching from behind. She turned to see Julie next to her. She also watched the truck leave. There was a moment of silence between them as the truck disappeared into the countryside. Julie huffed and she said, "You know, my husband's with them. I'm always worried about his safety. I drive myself crazy sometimes just worrying about him. But like magic, he always comes back with food and supplies. I don't know how he does it." "Who's your husband?" Sarah asked. "Tim. He's the one with the leather jacket. We've been married for 10 years now. Lost our son when all this started," Julie said. Sarah looked over and said, "I'm sorry you went through that." "It's okay. We've all been through loss one way or another," Julie said. How do you get through the pain?" Sarah asked. "Well, it's just the thing. You don't ever get through it. You always just have that pain," Julie said. "The time eases tension and sadness, but only a little bit." She huffed before she continued. "I guess life moves on, but having friends helps." Sarah didn't like that answer. There had to have been another way. "So, would you be interested in helping me make the bread today?" Julie asked, which broke Sarah's thoughts. Sure, I don't know how to make bread," Sarah said. "Don't worry, I'll teach you," Julie said. Sarah nodded as she said, "Okay." Julie smiled and led the girl to another building. "We've got everything we need in this building. It's prepared, the bread, vegetables, fruit, sometimes cookies and brownies." Sarah smiled and said, "I haven't had anything like that in a long time now. I used to help my mom make cookies, and I really miss doing that." Julie smiled and said, "Well, maybe I can make a batch of cookies for everyone tonight." "That would be great," Sarah said. They went into the building where Sarah proceeded to help Julie make the bread. "Okay, you can get the water and I'll get the other ingredients," Julie said. "Okay," Sarah said. "We have running water. We just have to use this big Scott over there," Julie said, as she made a gesture towards the sink. Sarah went over and walked to the sink. She grabbed a nearby steering bowl that seemed to have been clean. She poured the water into the bowl while Julie gathered the rest of the ingredients, which was left by the door. She turned off the spigot and took the bowl out of the water and the stove burner on the top of the corner of the room. There was already a fire in it, and the water was boiled. She couldn't help but smile a little. It was nice to get her mind off of everything by helping Julie. Zeke and Jane spent most of their morning wandering around scavenging supplies. Jane was still hopeful to get to House, but as they continued to walk, Zeke noticed a movement up ahead spread. His eyes widened. It was a statue. He ran past Jane and went towards the moment. "Hey!" Jane said. Zeke ignored her. This had to have been Parker's Run. Zeke had arrived at the clearing just to see it was abandoned. "Damn it," Zeke muttered. Jane arrived at the clearing as well. She looked around and said, "You should be more careful. You have no idea if those assholes were here." Those assholes Jane was referring to were the men that they had ran into that trailer park. Zeke looked up and shook his head. "This has to be Parker's Run. The group should be here." "What group? That was 2 days ago. They probably moved by now," Jane said. "Let's just look around. Maybe we could find them," Zeke said. Jane crossed her arms over her chest and said, "You'll die if you keep looking for them. I just don't understand why you're willing to accept that." Zeke paused for a moment and sighed. "There are things worse than death. I put myself through hell after my little brother was killed, before I met Krista and Omid. I don't care about anyone or anything. I just wasn't myself," Zeke said. Jane pondered on his words and said, "How do you know that everything will work out?" Zeke shrugged and said, "I don't. I just take each day one day at a time and enjoy the little things. The goal is to find a place that I can call home." "And what happens if it doesn't work out?" Jane asked. "You can't honestly think that you'll still have a permanent home in this world." "If it doesn't work out, I find another home. I'm not giving up," Zeke said. Jane became silent at this. Zeke proceeded to look around the monument. He noticed that there were several footsteps on the prints on the ground, which some of them belonged to smaller feet. It must have been from the children. That was a good sign. Maybe he could still find the group. "Maybe you're right," Zeke heard Jane said. She looked over the young woman and sighed. "I'm just used to seeing people die. I almost expect it now. The last thing I want to do was to get involved with another group. But ever since you talked to me, I've been thinking about Jamie. And my life before all this. I used to be so happy. Now I don't know what I'm living for." She released another sigh before she continuing. "I guess if you can make it work, then I can make it work too." She followed a small smile. "Alright, I don't know if this is going to work, but you've convinced me. Let's go find our group." Zeke smiled and he said okay. He was glad that he finally got through to Jane. It was just like what Omid and Krista did for him. Now he just hoped that he could still find the group. He followed the footprints that there were ahead of him and in the group. He followed the trail which led him out of Parker's Run towards another clearing. He was pulled back by Jane before entering the building in the clearing. He looked up and saw why she did. There were 3 men looking over a boy who was the same age as Zeke. "Shit, those assholes are the same ones from the trailer park," Jane whispered. All 3 men appeared to be in their late 20s or early 30s. One man wore a black hooded sweatshirt with blue jeans and gray boots. Another one wore a red sweatshirt, black jeans, and gray shoes. And the other wore a purple sweatshirt, blue jeans, and black shoes. And the man that wore the purple sweatshirt was talking while the other 2 men were lean. The boy they were standing over, lying on the ground, held his arms tied up. His glasses were cracked and it seemed to be beaten up. It wasn't long until a truck pulled up, and 2 men and a boy got to Zeke's age got out of the truck and approached the 3 men. "So, this boy's been giving you trouble? Where's the woman?" the stocky man from the truck asked. He appeared to be in his mid-40s, wore a dark blue plaided shirt with a gray long-sleeve shirt underneath, blue jeans and brown boots. He almost reminded Zeke of Wyatt since he had a thick beard, but Wyatt wore glasses and had dirty blonde hair. The man didn't wear glasses and appeared to be bald. "Now I found this asshole limping across the clearing with a bag full of medicine," the man in the red sweatshirt said. The boy started speaking in different language. It sounded as if he was insulting them. He tried to speak English. "You take my sister's medicine. You are..." He threw out another insult in the foreign language he spoke. "Boy, speak English," the man said, and the black hooded sweatshirt asked, before punching him at the back of the head. The teen seemed to be grunting in pain. "Jed, we should take him back to the community?" the other man asked the teenager compared to them. The man wore a leather jacket with green hooded sweatshirt underneath with blue jeans and black shoes said. The other teenager, Jed, on the other hand, wore an orange hooded sweatshirt with blue jeans and black boots. Jed seemed to be contemplating on when he drew his gun. "I think we got company," Jed said. Zeke's eyes widened. Did he see them? However, he was somewhat relieved to see the two men and the woman come into view, but 3 of them were heavily armed. One man had an assault rifle, and the other man had a shotgun, and the woman carried a handgun. The men that were with Jed aimed at the two and the woman with the assault rifles. Jed was the only one carrying the handgun. 2 men and the woman started talking to the boy on the ground in the foreign language. After a few 10 seconds, the man and woman aimed at the group of men. As soon as they did so, shots were fired. The woman was shot and killed. "No!" the boy exclaimed. He managed to get up and went over to the woman. Before he got to the woman, Jed had shot him in the back of the head. The teenager died instantly. The other 2 men shot at the group. The man wore a sweatshirt, shot in the abdomen. He fell down to the ground and yelped in pain. 2 men took over and continued to fire at the group. Another man who wore the leather jacket was shot in the shoulder. He yelled out in pain as he gripped his shoulder. The 2 of the men came out of to cover and finish him off, but he was shot in the neck. He jolted back and fell to the ground. "Oh my gosh," Jane muttered. Zeke couldn't pull his eyes away from the scene. It was like watching a car crash. He watched Jed circling around to shoot the last man. The man noticed his approach, but it was too late. He swung his gun in time to get several shots in the abdomen. "We're clear," Jed said. He then went up to the dying man and shot them in the head. The other lower man lowered their weapons. Jed appeared to be one man, dragging him over to the bodies of the woman and the teenager. The man wore a purple sweatshirt, grabbed the other man's body, who dragged it as well. Jed looked at the man who wore the red shirt. "Scott, can you walk?" Jed asked. The man huffed and he wore a dark blue plaited shirt helped him over. "Yeah," the man, Scott said with a groan. "Motherfucker, this hurts like hell." "Get him to the truck, Brandon," Jed said. "You got it," said Brandon. He helped Scott into the back of the truck while the man in the leather jacket approached Jed. "Are you all right?" Jed asked. "Yeah. Julie's gonna have to hide my hide for this," the man said. "We didn't have a choice," the man who wore the black hooded sweatshirt said. "True. What are you gonna do with them?" the man said, looking at the purple sweatshirt and made a gesture to the bodies. "The woman stays. Let the walkers take her," Jed said. "That kid, she said she needed the medicine, which meant she has some kind of illness." The man who wore the black sweatshirt nodded and said, "Yeah, there is some hardcore drugs in that bag." "Yeah, leave her," Jed said. "Leave the kid too. Not sure if his disability is worth it." "You got it," the stocky man said in the purple sweatshirt. He picked up the dead man and carried him to the back of the truck. The 2 men wore at the back of the hooded sweatshirt, grabbed the other man, and took him to the truck. "So what happened to the kid and the woman you were chasing?" Jed asked. "We lost their trail," the man who wore the purple sweatshirt said. "Okay, that's not a big deal. For now we need to return to Hayfield," Jed said. "I'll drive," the man said, who wore the purple sweatshirt. "Okay," Jed said, getting after the bodies into the truck. 4 of the group members got in the truck while the other 2 got in the truck bed. Then they drove off. Zeke released a huff. He wasn't so sure what he witnessed. "What the fuck was that?" he muttered. He didn't typically drop the F-bomb, but this was a situation where it was acceptable. Jane was almost speechless as she huffed, and she said, "I honestly don't know."